Welcome to Focus on Family. I'm Cathy McCarthy. Today I have two guests who are here to talk about the Domus program. This program takes children who have a high trauma score and gives them a place where they can thrive socially, emotionally, and academically. I have Courtney Carey here today. She is the Chief Clinical Services Officer responsible for developing, directing, and coordinating mental health services for Domus.
Yes.
And Ashley Hampton, who is the Domus Academy Director of Advocacy, responsible for overseeing the social and emotional care for some of Domus's most vulnerable young people. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. This program is a wonderful program, and I really wanted to get the information out to our audience about how wonderful this program is and how you help children. So could you tell us about the Domus program?
Yes, so Domus is a nonprofit organization that operates primarily out of Stamford, Connecticut, but we do have a middle school in New Haven, Connecticut. And we serve approximately 700 young people and their families through a variety of educational, community-based, and residential programs. So we have a couple of schools, a middle school, Trailblazers Academy, and a high school, Stamford Academy, and another middle school, Domus Academy. Those are charter schools, and they serve the most struggling young people in the community academically, and kids that are really struggling behaviorally, socially, and emotionally.
And what is your role in that?
I oversee mental health services, so I direct and develop programming that helps to meet the emotional needs of the young people in our programs, and I also oversee our family advocate model, which is a model that provides essentially comprehensive case managers that work intensively with young people and their families to reach very individualized goals that remove barriers to academic success.
Now, is this mostly middle school and high school students?
That we work with mostly in the educational programs, but through our community-based programs, after school and outreach programs and residential programs, we service kids from age 5 all the way to young 20s.
And you said the residential program. What is that?
So we have two group homes, Domus House and Passages, and these are programs for young men who have been abused and neglected and removed from their homes, from their families of origin, and placed in a group home, and we operate those programs.
What is the age?
16 to about 22.
And Ashley, what is your role with the Domus program?
I'm the Director of Family Advocacy at Domus Academy. We opened in 2010. We started with the population in New Haven who have been not successful in the traditional public school settings, and so we've taken that population and we've put them into a school where there are smaller classrooms where we dedicate ourselves to serving their social emotional needs and making sure that we're removing all of the outside barriers that are preventing them from accessing their education.
Now, what is the criteria for a child to be enrolled in a program, whether it's in the residential program or the middle school or the high school? And I know there's a Domus Academy, an after-school program for elementary school children. How do you determine who's eligible?
Yeah, so it looks a little bit different across programs. I mean, I think across the board, our mission is to actively recruit the young people that are struggling most in the community, the kids that have been kicked out, that aren't welcome in programs anymore because of their behavior or because they're so behind. But it looks a little bit different across programs. For example, Stamford Academy, our high school, and Trailblazers Academy, our middle school, are charter schools of choice. They're public schools of choice. Okay. And so people apply to come there, and then there's a lottery process. Those also only have about 150 students approximately, so smaller class sizes, individualized instruction. But that being said, we work with the public school system to say, who's truant, who hasn't been successful, who have high suspension rates. We really are looking to get those referrals in order to work closely with them, because we feel that we can really help change their life trajectory.
So it's only for those children. So those children apply to the school?
Yeah, anyone can apply in the entire state of Connecticut because it's a
Okay.
charter school, so it's a public school of choice. So, you know, we service people primarily from Stamford, but we also get some Norwalk and Bridgeport kids. But again, it's, you know, it's the kids that that really need more intensive individualized
And that's
instruction.
who's chosen? Is that?
It's a lottery process, yeah.
Just-
So they
okay.
would apply, fill out an application, and then there's a lottery
I
process.
see.
And
Okay. And then how many cities are involved in this program? You mentioned Stanford and primarily, but you said Norwalk also?
Because they're public schools of choice, anyone in the state can apply. So we just tend to get Norwalk and Bridgeport students, a smaller number, because of their proximity, and people want you know, different options in terms of education.
Okay, and now I saw that there's something called the ACE score, the Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Yes.
And that I read a statistic here that said 35% of Trailblazer Academy middle school girls have a trauma score that makes them 2 to 4 times more likely to have negative academic health outcomes. And at Stanford Academy Charter High School, 60% of girls have a trauma score that high. What is that, and how is that marked and used?
Yeah, so the CDC actually published this survey, the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Experience, to measure the types of trauma that young people experienced early on. And when we say trauma, we mean you know, really potentially threatening situations such as witness to domestic violence, witness to community violence, being a victim of abuse and neglect. So, you know, really significantly troubling
that's so
experiences
sad.
for young people.
Right.
Yeah. And what this study showed is that, you know, the higher incidence of adverse childhood experiences people had, the greater impact that had later in life in terms of health and functioning in general. So
Right.
we, for the first year this year, administered that survey to everybody in our programs to see, and it was an anonymous survey, but just to see, you know, what are the
What they're dealing
what
with.
they're dealing with, right? And we found that, you know, as we suspected, but now have the data to support it, that you know, our young people are really struggling with some pretty terrible things going on in their lives, and that's helped us to really develop programming that you know, is targeted to really help them to heal from those experiences.
So this is given to the students to take this anonymous test,
Yeah.
so you know kind of what's going on and how to develop programs for them.
Yeah, so for example, if we know in the seventh grade girls, for example, 30% have witnessed domestic violence, we know that we're going to develop some programming in our peer groups that you know, that educate kids about what that means. You know, allow them to explore resources that might be able to help them more specifically. You know, to involve parents around understanding what their young people may be going through.
Now, these programs that they have, is it giving during the course of the school day? So it's part of the curriculum, like reading and math, and then these
So at
programs.
Domus Academy specifically, we have a 7-block schedule. Our 5th block, for example, is called the social emotional learning block. During that time, we have catered specific group instruction dedicated to serving the skills that we need to build up around our students regarding those points in the ACEs survey. So for example, if we have students that have suffered significantly in domestic violence or you know, some type of abuse, we make sure that we are engaging them in a way to not necessarily normalize it, but to make them realize, you know, this has happened to me, this has happened to you. You know, let's, instead of
that they're not alone.
hiding it, yeah,
Right.
that they're you know, not alone, or even some of our kids have experienced these traumas before they could even articulate speech, so they may not even necessarily have the words to be able to articulate what has happened to them. So unfortunately, they've developed some negative behaviors as a result of these things.
Right,
So it's like it's addressing the
yeah.
behaviors and realizing that all of their behaviors have reason,
Right.
and helping them to connect their behaviors to the trauma that they've endured in the past. And then instead of them being stuck in that situation where they got into, they're able to move on and develop new skills to be able to function better as members of society.
I think that's great. I mean, I think they should have some kind of program like this in all the schools, because I don't think there's any child out there that grows up, unscathed. I think everybody
Right.
has some kind of, dysfunction in the family. I think that's a great program, and hopefully modified program could be put into, the schools in general across
Yeah.
the board.
Yeah.
So are the teachers, are they regular certified Connecticut school teachers, and then you have counselors that come in for these other programs?
Yeah, so we have family advocates, which I mentioned before, which are the best way I could describe them are kind of, they do a little bit of everything, but they're comprehensive case managers. So simply by attending one of our schools, you're assigned a family advocate, that follows you throughout your time there. And the family advocate does a variety of things, including visiting the family's home, assessing their needs, helping to develop goals that the young person and family.
So it's one advocate?
One
per?
advocate per grade usually.
Okay.
So a 9th grade family advocate, a 6th grade family advocate.
Okay.
And then their 3 main goals are helping kids to improve attendance, helping to improve their behavior, and helping them to improve their social and emotional skills. So they're charged with running these peer groups. They facilitate these weekly groups. They follow a girls' circle or boys' council curriculum, which are evidence-based, and then they work closely with the teachers to, help the teachers understand what they're teaching in those groups so that they can reinforce them in the classroom and in the daily schedule.
Now, what are the risks for children who are not able to get into this program? If these children are just left into the system, and they have this trauma score, what are the risks of not getting help?
So it's one of the, we're in New Haven, Domus Academy is the only alternative middle school setting, and so our students would most likely either be in homebound instruction, meaning that they have been dismissed from their previous program, so they've been expelled, and so they would be given 2 hours of instruction academically every day by a private tutor designated by the Board of Education, or they would be incarcerated, or they would be in a residential outplacement treatment program. So this is really their only last option to participate as normally as a student can in a academic setting before they move on to another place.
And what about health risks? Are they more prone to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, tons of the kids are truant. They've stopped going to school at all. They're more at risk of engaging in substance use, other high-risk behavior, community violence, associating with the wrong peer group. A lot of them have become hopeless and don't feel like they have a future, so they're not thinking about, I have the capability of going on to college or some type of post-secondary
Right.
opportunity.
Right.
So, it's, there's huge risks for these kids. A lot of them could end up incarcerated. So, we really work to intervene to make sure that, these kids know that we won't give up on them. And
This
that
might be
we're
their
not-
only saving grace for some of them.
For some of
to
them,
be
yeah.
involved in this program.
And a lot of these issues are intergenerational, so we work a lot with the families and the parents to help them understand how they grew up or how they were parented, and so that way they're able to service their family needs a little bit better.
Now, are they pretty accepting to the program, the children and the families?
Well,
Yeah.
I think it looks a little bit different across
Yeah.
programs. I think a lot of our kids have major trust issues. They've worked with a lot of systems and adults that have failed them. And so a huge part of our program is building relationships. And, we don't kick kids out. We don't give up on them because we know other people have. And we know that when you don't trust someone, you need to see that someone's going to be there for you over and over and over again. And
Right.
so at first they may be reluctant to participate, but we are exceptional at building relationships with young people. And now most of the time we can't get them to leave. So.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, what about the residential home that you have for some of the teenage boys versus the high school? What qualities does the residence offer versus the high school?
Yeah, so the residence is just that. It's a residential program, and so those young men are placed there by the Department of Children and Families. So in the continuum of care in Connecticut, when a young person is removed from their home for a variety of reasons.
So they're physically removed from the home,
They're
and that's why they're
right.
put
They're
in this
placed
program.
somewhere else because their home environment wasn't meeting their basic needs for a variety of
So
reasons.
do these boys attend the high school?
Some of them do, but not necessarily all of them. Some of them go to the mainstream public schools.
So it's just a safe haven for them to be, so that they can attend school.
Yeah, and so that they have a family-like environment where they're nurtured and loved and cared for, in a different kind of a way.
Well, I have some quotes here from some of the Domus girls. And here's one that says, "Girls Circle helped me learn how to get along with girls I don't normally hang out with. It helps me learn how to work with people, even if they are not my good friends." And another one, "Everybody's open to each other. At first I was quiet, but now I trust everyone and know what I say won't get spread around. It's like we're sisters in Girls Circle." So that's about trust, exactly what you were just saying about, there are trust issues for a lot of these children. So I think it's wonderful that you offer this haven for them to come to. And one more quote, "Girls Circle has helped all the girls in the group become better and stronger people. It shows you the qualities you never knew you had." And when I read this one, it touched me because it's so important that they know that they are loved and that they're good and that they're strong and that they can accomplish and that there is hope and that they don't have to stay stuck in their situation, because I know a lot of children sometimes could feel out of control. They can't make choices. As an adult, we have choices and we have a voice, and these children don't always have that.
Yeah.
So I think this is such a wonderful program. So speaking of the Girls Circle, can you tell me a little bit of what that is, how that works, and when it's offered to the girls?
So in New Haven, we run a Girls Circle once weekly. Our family advocate runs that during the social emotional block. She was trained as a Girls Circle facilitator. One of the cool things, and probably one of the most difficult things, is recognizing that our girls have been through trauma at a much higher rate than our boys statistically, in our schools specifically. And so we have many more issues to address, and they also have a lot more trust issues because of the things that they've been through. And I think that having them build relationships and build that trust is like a much more higher thing to achieve than it would be with our boys. So when they finally do make those successes and they do trust in us and they do make friends with each other, it's a huge success, because they don't really believe in the fact that you and I can be allies, or you and I can be colleagues, or you and I can make each other better, because from their experiences, unfortunately, so many people have tried to tear them down. And so, along with identifying with, gender-based specific issues, it also does a lot for their self-esteem. And, they're able to go on to the next step, and then maybe, try out for track or try out for cheerleading, because they've built trust in each other, and they feel much more confident in who they are.
That's great. Do you have any sports activities, like you were just saying, and social activities like prom and dances and things like that are offered to the children?
Yes, we do. We do. Yeah, at our high school, we have a prom every year. There's a lot of energy invested into end-of-year activities. As a school community, we're involved in helping them to go to Six Flags together, exposing them to a lot of opportunities that they might not get to. Specifically with Girls Circle, a lot of them go to plays in New York City because they've never been there before, and they get to go out to dinner and practice what that's like. And we do have a lot of sports activities at our schools. We have a rugby team at our high school. We have a basketball team, girls and boys basketball.
They must love coming to school.
I think they feel really welcome there.
Right,
And they feel
must
safe there.
Safe
Yeah.
and warm. It's probably the only school where kids probably are really looking forward to getting up and going to school in the morning. That's great.
And it's exciting for them because they have an opportunity to celebrate their successes. I think that sometimes our population doesn't necessarily get the outlet, the opportunity to be able to celebrate the fact that they
Right.
have, won a game or have gone to prom. So we really try to encourage the opportunity for them to be able to shine.
Cheer each other on.
Yeah.
Or even,
and-
they improved their attendance from being completely truant to coming to school 3 days a week, just making
Right.
smaller incremental steps. We try to really celebrate those successes and help them to
Right,
stay
they're getting the
motivated.
encouragement, right, and the motivation to continue to do well.
Yes.
I think that's fantastic. I get goosebumps every time I hear about it or talk about it. And now the schools that you have, there's one middle school and there's one high school, correct?
There's 2 middle schools, so a Stanford Middle School and a New
Okay.
Haven Middle School, and then a Stanford High School.
The Stanford High School, okay.
It's
And
called Stanford Academy.
Stanford Academy, okay. And the Domus Academy, that's different. Is that the elementary school?
So there are 3 schools altogether Domus has. There's the high school, which is Stanford Academy, Trailblazers Academy in Stanford, which is a middle school, and then our second middle school is Domus Academy in New Haven. The difference between Domus Academy and the other 2 schools is that it's not a charter school, it's a public school.
Okay.
So a few years ago, there was a school operating in New Haven that was not operating up to the state standards, and so they asked Domus to come in and open a school in the community to serve the children that haven't been successful in the traditional public school setting. So these children don't actually elect to go there, they're referred there, which actually creates a even larger barrier with the parents because
Right.
they're not electing to go there. This is a place where somebody's saying, no, this is where your child is going to go. And so, going on home visits and building those relationships with those parents and the families are that much more important because we have to gain their trust after their child has literally been kicked out of every other system in the city.
So that has to be more of a challenge.
The engagement
The
harder,
engagement
Right.
part,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Right.
engagement part, yes.
Okay. Now I know there is an after-school program for elementary school students because I'm actually honored to teach at one of the schools in the after-school program there, and I love it.
Okay.
So what is that about? What kind of program is that?
Yeah, we have a couple of after-school programs which operate under our community sector. So we have the Chester Addison Community Center, which operates in one neighborhood of Stamford. And then we have a couple of, we have the Lions Den After School program, which is part of Trailblazers Academy. So it is an extension and allows kids to stay involved and engaged in after school activities, enrichment, sports, help with homework, all sorts of good things.
I know there's they have yoga classes,
Yeah.
there's a cooking class, a gardening class. I teach a health and wellness program,
Oh,
there's
great.
photography.
Yeah.
So I had found out about all these extra programs that they're able to take after school. I'm like, that is so great. And I know they look forward to it because they come into the class, they're all excited. And,
Yeah.
and I think that's a great thing to offer to the elementary school kids
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely, and just teaching them that staying involved in activities and off the streets and with involved, caring adults is a huge protective factor for them.
Absolutely. And what is the percentage of students that graduate from the Stanford Academy High School, your school instead, the high school that you have, is, and then they go on to post-secondary classes. Do you know what that percentage is?
I'm not sure of the
or-
exact percentage, but we have a very, very high rate of students that graduate, not only graduate, but that are accepted into a post-secondary program of their choice. So we're very proud
So
of that.
very successful, it sounds like.
Yes, yeah.
That's great. And do you follow up with any of the students after they graduate, and how do you do that? How do you know that they've continued to be successful, or if they've kind of, went back to old habits? I
Yeah.
tend to think they would not. But do you follow up with them?
We do, yeah, and we hold ourselves accountable for, a certain amount of time after they graduate that, to make sure that they are being successful. And now we have a post-secondary outreach person who tracks that data and contacts people, from the programs to find out, are you still enrolled in the program, if it's from high school to college, or any post-secondary program, or if it's from middle school to high school, how are you doing, how's your attendance, are you still going,
So you
how's your
follow
behavior?
them and-
So we do track them
That's
for
great.
a period of time, yeah.
That's great. And tell me how Domus is funded.
Domus is funded through a variety of means. For the schools get some local and state funding, and we get a lot of private funders. So our executive director does a ton of fundraising.
So you do the fundraising. Do you have any events that you do for fundraising?
Yeah, we have lots of events. We have an annual gala where we provide a very exciting function where lots of our staff get to volunteer, and we have auction items and all sorts of stuff like that. We do a really fun fitness fundraiser called the Domus Niner, which is a little bit different than some of the other programs do, like a 5K or kind of a more traditional running race. It's kind of a CrossFit type event where we get lots of different people competing through teams, and so that brings in a lot of funds specifically for our Domus sports programs.
No, this is open to the public. Anybody could go to the gala and to these.
Yes,
events.
yeah. There's a certain number of seats at the gala, and we do a lot of promotion around the Domus Niner. We also have golf outings. We have Domus Diner Day. We do all sorts of stuff.
Where is this advertised, or how can anybody find out when and where these events are taking place?
Yeah, we have an amazing website.
Okay.
It has tons of information. We have a Facebook page that's constantly updated with lots of information. We try to get the word out to the public through through a variety of mechanisms. Sometimes through TV, sometimes through radio and newspaper.
And what is the website for the Domus?
DomusKids.org.
Okay, that's very easy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information on there. It's updated daily on our Facebook and posts, and we have a Twitter account, and kind of try to let people see, all of the inner workings of the agency.
Well, I think the Domus program is fantastic, and it gives these children an opportunity for a brighter future and for hope. So I really want to thank you both, Courtney and Ashley, for being here and taking the time. And I know, these children are really lucky to have you for advocates and to help. So
thank you for having
so
us.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for viewing, and thank you for joining me today on Focus on Family. I'm Cathy McCarthy. Until next time, live well.